Jiripsu and welcome to our show. This is Khmer Youth Voices for Justice. This is part of the CNRP-America live TV show. My name is Linda Wu. Today is Tuesday, January 24, 2022. Again, welcome to our show. Before we start, I always ask you to help sign the petitions at change.org, ending impunity for justice in Cambodia. The petition is still alive, so please join me to support and sign the petitions, ending impunity for justice in Cambodia. Together, we fight to end impunity. Together, we hold Hun Sen responsible for continuing to kill and hurt Cambodian. Last Saturday, January 22nd, we remember Tieu, who was killed 18 years ago. So 18 years ago, we still do not have justice for him and his family. And this petition is very important. So please help to sign the petitions. Hundreds of victims have never received any justice. So together we fight to end impunity. Together we will find justice for victims of state-backed killing in Cambodia. And the same thing, like I said, Tieu been 18 years ago. So it is, and thank you, Eric. It is the 25th. It's been a long day. Thank you. So it is January 25th, 2022. Let's start over. Please help to support our petitions at change.org. Like I said, Tieu, it's been over 18 years and still no justice. November 21st, our youth activist Sinkon was hacked to death and he died at the hospital. So that is recently, that is 3 months ago, and also there's no justice, still no justice. So please help to support our petitions at change.org. I have a short video clip so far that, and also so far we have over 112,000 signatures. So please help to sign that petitions. We need to keep going. And again, the petition is still alive. Thank you so much. Please watch a little clip of Her Excellency Mosakur detailing. Also, she's thanking you, that help sign the petition right now. Sign the petition that have been 112,000 signatures. Please help to push to 113,000 signatures.
What Prahat Ngai Tipram, Tipram Yuchi, Ban Man Complaint, Banjam, Chop Pet Pon, and Happy Ban, look at the Camlay, Ban Man Complaint, Banjam, by Crop, Big old lay down. It's a good film.
I'm so tired of the phone, the top of all, like Ban Showroom, Joe Hatalika. លើញញ៉ាត់យុទ្ធនាការបញ្ចប់នៃតនភាពនៅកម្ពុជាតាមនិយាយទាំងអស់ពីពិភពលោកបានចូលរួមធ្វើនៅកាតព្វកិច្ចដ៏សំខាន់មួយពិសេសយុវជនដែលបានចូលរួមញ៉ាត់បញ្ចប់នៃតនភាពនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជារបស់យើងហើយក៏ជាលើកទី1នៅក្នុងប្រវត្តិសាស្ត្រដែលបងប្អូនខ្មែរទូទាំងពិភពលោកអាចមានឱកាសចូលរួមស្វែងរកយុត្តិធម៌ជូនអ្នកដែលបានបាត់បង់ជីវិតទៅហើយដល់ពេលនេះញ៉ាត់យើងបានជាង 100000 ដែលញ៉ាត់របស់យើងគឺមានចំនួន 100000 ជាងហើយមិនដែលមានញ៉ាត់ណាមានខ្ពស់ដល់ប៉ុណ្ណឹងហើយនៃទនភាពនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាដែលយើងចង់បញ្ចប់គឺករណីសម្លាប់ដោយអវត្តដូចជាករណីលោកជាវិជាករណីលោកស្រីពិសិដ្ឋលក្ខណៈចាក់នៃលោកករណីលោកឈុតវិធីករណីនៃបដិជនសុនបុនធឿនបានសម្លាប់រំពាលទៅលើពលរដ្ឋទៅលើអ្នកចេះដឹងទៅលើអ្នកដែលឈឺឆ្អាលរឿងប្រទេសជាតិរឿងនយោបាយហើយបន្តប៉ុណ្ណោះគឺយើងនឹងស្វែងរកយុត្តិធម៌នៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាទៀតមិនឲ្យមានការកាប់សម្លាប់ប្រជាពលរដ្ឋក្រៅប្រព័ន្ធច្បាប់នោះទេដូច្នេះយុទ្ធនាការនេះគឺជាយន្តការអន្តរជាតិមួយដើម្បីជួយរកយុត្តិធម៌គាត់តាមរយៈអន្តរជាតិដើម្បីយើងប្តឹងទៅតុលាការអន្តរជាតិជួយរកភាពយុត្តិធម៌ជូនអ្នកដែលបានបាត់បង់ជីវិតអ្នកដែលយកបានមកចុះហត្ថលេខាជាង 100000 អ្នកនេះគឺយើងយកទៅអង្គការសហជីវជាតិដើម្បីទាមទារឲ្យអង្គការសហជីវជាតិដឹង ថាត្រូវតែមានការស៊ើបអង្កេតដោយឯករាជ្យលើករណីទាំងអស់នេះ
លុះត្រាតែបងប្អូនយើងទាំងអស់គ្នានៅក្នុងស្រុកនិងក្រៅស្រុកចូលរួមឲ្យបានច្រើនបន្តនៅយុទ្ធនាការបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាដូច្នេះសូមបន្តចុះញត្តិឲ្យបានច្រើនគ្រប់គ្នាបន្ថែមទៀតហើយខ្ញុំសង្ឃឹមថាពុកម៉ែបងប្អូននឹងបន្តចុះញត្តិអនឡាញនេះបន្តទៅទៀត
ដើម្បីឈានទៅរកយុត្តិធម៌ជូនដល់ជនរងគ្រោះហើយបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជា
ដោយគ្រាន់តែបងប្អូនមានត្រឹមតែទូរស័ព្ទដៃមួយគ្រឿងនេះគឺជារឿងអស្ចារ្យមួយនៅក្នុងសតវត្សទី21នាសម័យបច្ចេកវិទ្យានេះ
យើងរួមគ្នាបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពដើម្បីយុត្តិធម៌នៅកម្ពុជា
ចូលរួមបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពដើម្បីយុត្តិធម៌នៅក្នុងកម្ពុជា
យើងចូលរួមបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពដើម្បីយុត្តិធម៌នៅកម្ពុជាទាំងអស់គ្នា
យើងរួមគ្នាដើម្បីបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជា
ដើម្បីបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពឲ្យមានយុត្តិធម៌នៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជា
រួមគ្នាបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពដើម្បីយុត្តិធម៌នៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជា
រួមគ្នាបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពដើម្បីយុត្តិធម៌នៅកម្ពុជា
សូមបងប្អូនចូលរួមចុះហត្ថលេខាលើញត្តិរបស់យើងដើម្បីបញ្ចប់វប្បធម៌នីតិរដ្ឋភាពនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាដើម្បីរកយុត្តិធម៌ជូនទៅដល់អ្នកដែលរងគ្រោះចូលរួមបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាចូលរួម
Thank you and welcome back. And again, thank you, Eric, and thank you, Mr. Tim Lott, for pointing out that today is the 25th. Yes, it's been a long day today. I actually look at the time and look at the clock, and I still say the 24th. So thank you so much, both guys, for correcting me. And also, if you in Cambodia, it would be the 26th. So thank you. And Sam said he is the 26th. So wherever you at watching this show, thank you so much for joining our show. This is Khmer Youth Voices for Justice. Again, my name is Linda. I am broadcasting live from Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our topic for today would be the 4th International Day, Education Day. So education is very important for children. For us as adults, we keep continue learning. So, but we will talk about that. Yesterday, the 24th, is International Education Day. So that's probably why I'm thinking about the 24th. But anyhow, thank you so much. I have two wonderful guests that's here with me today. One of my guests, she's pretty young. She is in college right now. Her name is Selena. I will bring her out. She haven't been here. She's been busy, but she made time today and she was able to join our show today. Jimmy Soup on Selena.
Miss Linda.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on the show today.
You are in North Carolina?
Yes, ma'am.
So how North Carolina and how Selena doing?
I'm doing well. As you said earlier, I'm a college student at UNC Chapel Hill, and we just came back to school recently, earlier this month, and with the pandemic and everything, we're trying to find a balance and adjusting between remote and in-person classes again.
And you are in a dorm right now, speaking with us, broadcasting from the dorm?
Yes, live from the dorm.
Thank you so much for making the time. I know I've been asking you to join our show, and it's been it's been busy for you, but thank you so much for joining our show.
Yes, of course. Thanks for inviting me and having me on here.
Thank you, Selena. My second guest, her name is Brittany Baker. So Brittany? How are you?
I'm good, busy but good. I'm happy to join to discuss the importance of education tonight.
Yes, I'm sure our audience know Brittany is in Ohio. She is an English teacher. So it's only fitting that we're talking about the International Day of Education. And thank you, Brittany, for being here and to talk about that, because I couldn't think of anybody to discuss education with than you.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity.
And let me bring Selena back. Brittany, so how's Ohio?
It's good. We have a couple of days of snow, but it's a little better now. But they closed the schools for tomorrow in anticipation of really cold temperatures tonight.
I'm hearing cracking noise. Did you hear cracking noise too? Just
Yeah. I think Selena's audio.
let me see.
Should I mute myself?
Yeah, maybe.
Can you still hear us okay?
I think it's better now. Yeah.
Okay, then we'll mute Selena when she's not talking.
Okay.
So how's Ohio? How's the snow?
The snow is still here. They closed the schools for tomorrow in anticipation of the temperatures dropping tonight. So a day off for the kids and for the teachers.
Yay!
Yeah.
Selena, so how's the snow in North Carolina?
The snow in North Carolina, we had a two sessions of snow, one earlier last week, and then a second phase in the same week this past weekend. And so school was canceled this last Friday.
Look at everybody have a snow day.
Except you.
California. But I'm not complaining. Let me see. Before we start on our topic, I have two important updates. Not updates, yeah, just came out, and then I want our audience to be aware of that. So let me share my screen, and then let me see. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay, this is the international organization that this is from. Let me see. Sorry. This is from Transparency International, a global coalition against corruption. So the data just released. In 2021, Cambodia ranked 157 out of 180. 2-point improvement compared to 2020. And what does this mean? It's the international organization confirmed that the score that Cambodia received this year is not a positive sign. The score is still remain low, indicating that Cambodia is lagging behind other countries in the region of the world. So the score and the ranking show that Cambodia is the most corrupted country in the world, more corrupted than Myanmar and Laos. So, and also Cambodia is also ranked as one of the 3 countries with the lowest score compared to Afghanistan and North Korea. So corruption doesn't go away, even though it's improved from 160 to 157. So this is. I'm not sure. Can you see that? It's okay, right? You see that? See, 157 score out 180. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Score number 1 being that the country is clean, not corrupted. Being 180 mean corrupted. So Cambodia score 157. And the other new item that just came out as well. Let me share another one so that way our audience able to see what's going on. This is an agreement. I know it's so tiny, I'm sorry. This is an agreement that the Cambodia government, the Cambodia regime signed with so this is a Cambodian government that we have to pay 60,000 per month from January 1st, 2022 to January 1st, 2023. So a total of 720,000 in exchange for providing counseling service on something that both sides claim build mutual understanding, providing and highlight areas of common interest to build new relationship. So Cambodia is spending $60,000 per year with this company to advance bilateral relationship between Cambodia and the United States. So this is a new company that they just signed it. Let me bring you to the company. Let me see. This company called Akin Gum. So this is 60,000. And last year they also signed another contract. Let me show you the other contract as well. This one. It's signed on September 15, 2021. Hun Sen and his regime signed a contract with Quovis Communications for $70,000 per month as well. For us, so people that living in America, for people that for Cambodian American that living in America that feel that Cambodia is very peaceful, Cambodia is very prosperous, Cambodia is very well developed, and also for Cambodian that live inside Cambodia who feel that their government is just nothing but sunshine, like Luk Saram said, sunshine in Cambodia. And also, why does the Cambodia government spending 70,000 with one company and 60,000 with the other company, so the Cambodian government can have a relationship with American government? Brittany, can you help with that? Why are they spending so much money?
Great question. I could think of a million better ways to spend that money, including giving the severance to the Naga workers that have been protesting for more than a month, or to developing the education system in Cambodia. But instead, the regime has decided to pay $60,000, $70,000 a month to these corrupt firms that are okay with covering up human rights violations and destroying natural resources in Cambodia. It's really shameful that those companies, that those lobbying firms are doing this dirty work. And it's important for us as people in the United States or in the international community to follow this money and to hold these lobbying firms accountable. So I thank you for bringing this up, because this is fresh, hot news right off the presses. So we need to follow the money and demand better from these lobbying firms and from on behalf of the people in Cambodia.
Yes, and the impressions for people that in Cambodia, the impression is Hun Sen doesn't care about the United States. Hun Sen go against the United States, but at the same time, if you look at their children, you look at the money that being spent. They in Cambodia, they probably spend the dollar more than the Cambodian money, and also the image, because America respect democracy and America respect human rights, and those are the two items that Cambodia lacking. And not just lacking, is horrible. And also when I show you the corruption index, that's what happens. Corruption money corrupt all over Cambodia, and for the Transparency International come out with their index of corruptions, and now we see this money that the regime spending. So if you add that up, that's like $1.5 million just to spend. Hun Sen is spending to make the regime look better to the United States. That's probably going to have to do with the legislation that HR 4686 and S 3052 that everybody is working on. So our audience, if you have not contact your senator, please contact your senator and have them support. What is it, Brittany?
S 3052 and HR 4686. Please, please, please.
Thank you. Yes. And again, I always say it in my show, it's not a CNRP-A project, it's a Cambodian American project. So please, and everybody, not just Cambodian American, anyone who believe in democracy, everyone who believe a respect for human rights in Cambodia, please help to contact your senator. Both HR 4686 and S 3052 is already at the Senate. So please contact your senator and help them support and co-sponsor both of them. And the reason the reason we brought it up because the regime, again, 70,000 with Quovis Communications, one company just to help to make Cambodia have an image of democracy and human rights in Cambodia. And now this company, let me share it again. This is the really hot news. When I find it. This contract just signed January 5th, 2022. Atkin Gums, I couldn't even pronounce this company's name. So they signed with the Embassy of Cambodia. Client will be billed at a flat rate of $60,000 per month effective January 1st, 2022 through January 1st, 2023. So you have it 60,000 and 70,000, and you add that up, $1.5 million that the regime carelessly spent to make their image around to Washington, D.C., have the impressions of them respecting human rights, respecting democracy, but as a result, no. If they working on those, and those is not in areas of lacking in Cambodia, they wouldn't spend have 1.5 million per year on both of those companies. Thank you, Brittany, for chiming that in. Let's talking about our topic. We are talking about 4th International Day of Education on January 24. Yesterday, the UN celebrated the fourth International Day of Education. We know that education is important, and we know that everybody needs education. So it's a topic for everyone. And I'm glad that Selena's here because she's a student. She can, I left school a while, but and Brittany is younger and Selena is much younger, so they can help chime in the education part. Selena, were you born in the U.S.?
Sorry?
Are you born in the U.S.?
Yes, I was born in the U.S.
How's your parent regarding education? Do they telling you that you need to go to school? Is very important? How's your parent in regarding to education?
Yeah, so ever since I was young, I think that my parents instilled in me kind of like that core concept of delayed gratification, where you focus and prioritize your education now so that you can, in the long run, have a stable career and be able to enjoy your living in the future. And so from a very young age, they instilled in me the importance of education.
So how far did they want you to go?
Sorry?
How far did they want you to go with education? Do they want you to stop with high school, college, or how far did they want you to go?
I think that originally our main focus was going to college, and then from there, depending on my career choices, I can choose to continue schooling or get a job and enter the workforce. And so for me in particular, I recently was admitted to an optometry school. So it's like a professional level education. And even though my parents are pretty open to any kind of any level, at least the college education was the fundamental part that that was their goal.
Thank you, Selena, for sharing that. I wasn't sure what is the current youth in America expect, because when I was a youth long time ago, that was the expectancy of me is to, Brittany's laughing. It wasn't expect of me to go. It's expect for me to go to school. So a question of like, oh, what am I going to do up to high school? No, it's not a question of that. It's a question of finish high school, go to college, um, and keep going. So that's what my parent always told me. That's also because our life our life wasn't so easy as a kid nowadays. So, but that's and then I believe education helped me to be critically thinking, meaning that even though going to school, you read a lot of. To me, I read a lot of book, and all these books help me to better myself, to how to look at the world differently. And also, Brittany, she is a teacher. She been to Cambodia. Can you share a little bit, Brittany, or chime in regarding education, early education in Cambodia?
Sure. I think your question to Selena was interesting, and congratulations, Selena, on your acceptance to the program. That sounds great. But I think it's interesting to think about the value of education and how families prioritize education. If you look at the data, the education data that comes out of Cambodia, it's parallel to the corruption data. So the more corrupt a country is, most often the education level is parallel to that. So a lot of times people say, well, education isn't valued, especially in the countryside. Education isn't valued. The kids are dropping out of school because the parents aren't making them go, or they don't prioritize education. And that is not my experience at all. I taught in the countryside, in the provinces, for 3 years, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. So to say that parents aren't valuing education is totally wrong. I think we have to look at other reasons why some kids are dropping out of school, and look at corruption, and look at the lack of resources, because the regime, the government, is not prioritizing education. Instead of sending $60,000-$70,000 a month to these corrupt American officials, the money should be channeled back to the schools to improve the education system there. So that's my experience. It's definitely not a personal failure that kids are dropping out of school or not passing their national exam. It's not something that is a fault of the children or of the parents or the communities. You have to look at the connectedness of all of this and trace where the failure comes from.
What I experience in Cambodia is I go to school in the morning, and in the afternoon, for parents that have money, they would send the student to the same teacher in the afternoon to get a private lesson, and that lesson usually give like a tip or a point for test. So if your parent have money, if you go to school in the morning and you have time in the afternoon, you would go to school and you go to the afternoon and you pay the teacher for private lesson. It's not like one by one on one. This is private lesson where 15 or 20 students there, taking private lesson, and I feel that that is so wrong. I feel that that's just I know the teacher want to I know the teaching career is not making money, and that just go into another issue that we're going to talk about as well in regarding student and teacher. What happened is during the afternoon, student would get private lesson, and you would pay the teacher, and that teacher would give a pinpoint of what's going to be on the exam, on what's going to be on the tomorrow exam. So as and that's just something that for children in the poor family, they're not going to able to afford that. So that's just one of the step of backward that the school in Cambodia is doing. That's what my experience, and I know Brittany teach in Cambodia as well. Um, for me, I only remember going to school in the morning. I don't remember going to school morning and afternoon. I remember going to school in the morning, come home for lunch, and then go back to school to do private lesson.
Mm-hmm. It depends on the school. That's one thing that's somewhat unique about Cambodia. It depends on the individual situation of the school, the teaching staff, the grade level. There's a lot of variation. Like with us American volunteers, I would talk to my friends and I'm like, okay, what's your schedule? It's different across the board for everyone. But the issue that you brought up about the private lessons is still an issue, very much an issue, and it continues to divide the people that have money and resources and the people that don't, which continues to divide the disparity between the urban kids and the urban families and the rural families. That's a big issue. So again, if you corruption is pervasive on all levels, whether you're talking about, the regime sending money to these American lobbying firms, or you're talking about things that happen in the education system, bribing to pass exams, bribing to pass the national exam. All of those things are a failure of a government.
Thank you, Brittany. We will talk about what we need to do better in the school. Selena, you've gone through K through 12 and also in college. What do you like and don't like about the school system here in America?
I think that something that I'm very fortunate about America is that we have a public education system, and the quality of the public education system is very good compared to, say, Cambodia, with all the corruption. I think that having a free public education system in America is something very fortunate about the education system in America. Like, there are private schools here, but if you are not one of the wealthier families to pay for a private school, you can definitely get your worth out of a free education. Something that I don't like about the education system here, I think when you were talking about the corruption in Cambodia and about the disparity between access with people with money and without money, I think there's some parallelism there between with the education in America. Wealthier families tend to have the money and resources to pay for extra tutoring services. Now, they may not be as corrupt where you get answers to tests, but even just for preparing for college admissions tests like the SAT or ACT, for sure there's a disparity between between the students with the resources and the money for extra classes versus students who have to really work on their own because they don't have that financial support or even family support due to barriers such as income or even language barriers.
Thank you, Selena. Also, what different in America versus in Cambodia? We have a rule here. We have a law here that every children need to be in school from K to 12. you do not have an options to stay home. Your parents need to enroll you in school. So, and also if you are handicapped or you have learning disability, the school provide you access to those. The school will provide help. The reason I'm saying it because I stutter when I was young, and when I not very young, and that's what the school worked with me to relearn how to say every single thing over. So that's the access that I don't have to pay a penny for, and that's from public school. So does not matter if I know the difference between um, economic background in different community as well, but everybody have a chance to go to school in America. Where in Cambodia, there's no requirement that you have to be in school, and there's no requirement that you have to pass a certain test, but you do. When you in school, there's many exams that they have to go through. Also, as if we to look at Cambodia, when I every time I go to Cambodia, it's always shocked me that there's so many kids just standing around, like just hang out. I think that's the word, hang out. Where in America, if you from what 7:30 to 2 to 3, you don't see them hang out. But if you go to Cambodia, you see them hang out, and you say, why are they not in school? They're not required to go, and a lot of kids are hanging out on the street with the neighbor. So that's the main difference. Anything to add, Brittany, regarding hangout?
No,
Do you
but
see the same thing? Do you see the same
yeah,
thing? A lot of kids out just hang,
yeah.
just hang.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is my experience too. And many teachers, if not a majority of the teachers, have 2 jobs, 3 jobs because their salary is insufficient for their life, for their family. So sometimes that pulls them away from teaching, and then you have 40 kids who are just running around unsupervised around the school. That happened a lot. So that's a concern. And another thing that you were talking about, oh, I forget what we were talking about a minute ago.
I can move on as well.
Okay.
In order for the kids to go to school and to concentrate on school, the school have to provide nutrient food, and I don't think Cambodia provide that. I In America, every morning breakfast is free, lunch is free. So that how when your tummy is when the kid tummy are hurting and growling, their brain is not going to work. So that's one. That's also the lack of nutrient, the lack of proper um, food to give children. Um, Selena, how do you feel about going to school with no food in your tummy every morning?
I think that I would definitely struggle with focusing in class if I have to think about food.
Thank you.
I know
Yes,
that.
and
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
oh no, it's okay. Yes. Anything coming back from you, Brittany? Nutrition.
Nutrition. Well, one thing that I do want to talk about or bring to light is many youth are pulled away from school. They don't have the opportunity, despite their family wanting to. A couple reasons, like the schools mandate uniforms, so it's free education, but it's not really free because they have a great expense to pay for these uniforms. They have a great expense to pay for school supplies, expense for food, to send money for the kids to eat every day because school lunch doesn't exist, school breakfast does not exist. So that's one hindrance for the families. Another thing that pulls many young kids out of school is having to work to survive. So there have been extensive reports of child labor, very young children working in brick kilns, working like manual labor, because child labor laws are not respected in Cambodia. So that's another reason that many kids don't have the opportunity to study, because of the reality of their situation. But that doesn't have to be the reality, right? The corrupt regime is paying $60,000-$70,000 a month to other corrupt lobbying firms in the United States, rather than seeing the need of the education system and making sure that those kids aren't working in brick kilns, and that they do have sufficient food, and they have a bike to travel to school, and they have proper dorms that keep them safe, and that the girls have bathrooms where they feel safe to use the bathroom at school. All of these things would help retain the kids in the schools.
The last 3 years we experienced COVID-19. That's a global issue, and according to the UN's, like recently, like 31 million kids affected by COVID-19, meaning like COVID-19 keep the kid in school, not COVID-19 kill. It's not children infected with COVID-19, meaning that the COVID-19, because of the lockdown, because of the mostly staying away from each other, trying not to get infected with COVID-19, that school closed down. And that's also not just in Cambodia, it's also in America as well. How do you study, Selena, for doing COVID-19? You move back home, or you stay in the dorm and just do the lesson through the computer? Or how is the situation in college for the last 3 years?
Yes, from a higher education perspective in college, initially we did get sent back home when COVID first escalated in 2020. We transitioned to all remote classes. Fortunately, we did have these video conferencing softwares that were ready to use. The only difficulty is just, I think, is more on the teacher's end of how they can adapt their lessons to this new remote environment. I know for when I have lab courses that focus a lot on hands-on learning and learning by doing, we now, from a student perspective, we lose that benefit from taking a lab course, and that was something that was taken away during the pandemic.
So you lose the hand-on-hand experience of working in the lab.
Yes, and also when it comes to conversing with our peers, we often have lesser opportunities to discuss questions. I know that there's different softwares to be able to get into breakout rooms now, but still the discussion and be able to read each other's facial expressions, it's very limited compared to in person.
Yes, the person interaction, the human being interactions, um, and that is true. Now, just imagine in Cambodia, the school lockdown. I know in America, my daughter's school, March 15, 2020, they closed down, and before it closed down, AV student um, will gave the school gave AV student a Chromebook to go home. Including the Chromebook is a hotspot where the student can get online, can keep the education going. Now, I know in Cambodia, there is no way the regime is handing out Chromebook and a hotspot for everybody to all the students to study, and that is one of the issue as well. 2020, 2021. I don't think any education is going on, any school is going on. I know the kid that live in the city, have more access to the internet, but they still have to pay for the Wi-Fi. And I know they have access to the computer, but for the kid that live in the farm, they don't have any options. So many children, including from children to um, what high school kid, they don't have access to that. And that's when the corruption started, when um, there's no time in school, there's no training, and then there's national exam last year. And you can see like Selena said, she has no lab interaction, and that's what one of if you are a science student, you would need lab interaction. You would have no lab interaction. Now just imagine there's no school as well, and for the year and a half or 2 year that COVID happens in 2019, everything is locked down. No school, no children, no school and no teacher. So it's been going on for 2 years. So on this the topic for us is Fourth International Day of Educations. We want to bring awareness of the what's going on in like in America. Like I said, children get Chromebook, children get hotspot. The learnings keep going, even though the children prefer to be face to face, children prefer interactive. And I do understand and I do agree that children are better when they see their teacher. They somehow behave better in class versus at home. But sometimes situation happen that you cannot be in class. You have to be at home to prevent COVID, and that's also taken into considerations. Um, do you have anything to add, Brittany, regarding COVID in school in America, in your school, your school district, besides no?
um, yes, I think one valuable lesson that we have taken from COVID, or I have taken from COVID time, is the need to be flexible and the need to meet our students where they are, to understand that everyone has different access to technology, different ability to use technology. So not assuming that everyone can just hop on and shift to Zoom classes right away. I think we're pretty grateful, or I'm pretty grateful of the capacity that I have for internet access. I know the same thing is not true in many parts of Cambodia, and even in rural parts of the United States, which again further divides the urban kids who do have that access to the rural kids. And most of the people in Cambodia are living in the provinces. They're living in those rural conditions. So it's important to consider what has been lost over the last couple of years, and to have a targeted effort to support the needs of the kids in the countryside.
Thank you, Brittany. And now that we talk about COVID, let's touch base on we all here as a woman. How tough is it? I know school encourage STEM, encourage women or young girl to go into math, to go in science, to go into technology. That's encouraged here. Selena, how tough is it to be in those fields? How tough is it to have support in those fields?
Yeah, so I think in the context of modern day US, I think we're actually doing pretty good on like giving women the opportunity to go to school. Take my university, for example, is actually 60% women almost. And so, but that's not to say that the gender inequality has been overcome. I think that if anything, if you look a little bit deeper, as you said, there still needs to be more representation in STEM, and there's need to be more representation in higher leadership. And right now, I feel like there's a lot of support through like clubs, like Women in STEM, that are trying to help build encouragement among women to pursue STEM. But I still think that there still needs to be a lot of work in in making sure that there isn't a divide between the genders. Because even now, even with more women in STEM, they tend to be in industries like the healthcare industry or industries that are more associated with women. And so I feel like there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but definitely an improvement.
Yes, I feel the encouragement because when I was our high school, I know when I was in high school, there's no such thing as STEM. I mean, it's no there's no building. In my city, there's a building next to the high school that's called STEM or encourage women to be in STEM. But when I was our high school, I don't see a lot of it. It's a term that I actually recently or newly hear about it. And also, but also there's very lack of women in, if you're looking at computer science and you look at engineering, and not many people, not many women go into, or young lady go into that field. And because the encouragement from STEM, I feel that there's more representative, but it's not enough. But so the the encouragement is there, the push is there. So it's something that it looked better than it was 20 years ago. Yeah, and when we're talking about women, if you, I know Selena, you don't have a lot of experience in Cambodia, but Brittany and I know what it's like to be a woman to be in Cambodia. Um, the woman role is in the kitchen in Cambodia, and women also marry younger in Cambodia as well. So that's also as when as soon as that woman married to someone, her education just cut down. She does not have a chance to go to school. She would be home cooking and supporting her husband. So the message would be keep your daughter at school. I know it's tough, but send your daughter to school.
Mhm.
Anything you want to add regarding that, Brittany?
Yeah, I'll just that's exactly true. True. I'm sure you're aware of the many rules of the Chabab Saraya. It has, you know, 200, 300 rules for girls and women. And although it's not technically a part of the national curriculum anymore, it's still very present in formal ways, informal ways. Um, Many of my female students had extra duties on top of regular lessons, private lessons if they could afford it, house duties, sibling duties, all of these extra things. So I always encourage my female students to continue their studies. I know it's challenging. I know it's easy for me to say, keep studying, when the reality is very much different. But I'm starting to see, as Selena talked about, also a shift in understanding the importance of and the value of giving the education to a girl, and how that not only helps her, her family, but there's a ripple effect. And educating a girl is um, uh, the most important thing that we can do.
Thank you, Brittany. Now, Selena, you went through high school, you went through college. Do you encourage everyone in America or in Cambodia to keep going, to keep pursuing the higher educations? Now that you
Yeah,
experience both already?
yeah, for sure. I think that you definitely should pursue higher education, and I know that you can it can open up a lot of doors to many different opportunities. And I also recognize that there are special circumstances where college may not be the first choice, like straight out of high school, depending on if you have um, like more like great, like once in a lifetime opportunities that might give you valuable, if just as valuable, if not more valuable experiences. But I feel like for the majority of circumstances, if you're not feeling sure if you should pursue a higher education, I think that is a good route to take.
Thank you, Selena. How about you, Brittany? Should people keep going, or should people just stop?
People should go as long as they can and as long as they can afford it, like me. Go get as much education as you can, because that's no one can take your education away from you. Education is like a key to opening so many doors. And I think perhaps most importantly is hopefully education should teach people to be critical, to be critical thinkers, to be curious about things, to be open-minded. That's my hope for the education system in Cambodia and for the students of Cambodia. And I encourage all students, all young people, to be curious, to ask questions, to look at how things are connected and affect each other. That's my hope.
Thank you, Brittany. And when I'm talking about education, all I would think of is someone that went to school in America, what's called a school of West Point. And I would like to say to Cambodian children, Cambodian that continuing their educations, if your parent have billion and billion of dollar, you would have done the same thing. You would have continued to study abroad, and that is no such that it's not that they are better than you, and it's nothing at all. It's just that they have money, and that's not just not hard earned money. It's corruption money. It's dirty money. It's the money from the tear and the blood of Cambodian that's crying, and that's money. And if in another word, it would be a surprise if they didn't go to those school.
Yeah.
So if you are living in a farm, if you are children in a farm, don't feel bad that, oh, how come they have so much education more than you, because their parents have corrupted money to send their kid overseas to study. And that's what we started our show, is the corruption index. And I mean, if we're talking about education, because it's tied together, it tied at the regime. And if you were to look at it and you say, oh, so and so got this degree from this school, in British, in America, in Australia, so they are should be better off leading the country, or better off being your boss. That just not right, because those corrupted money to send their kid to overseas to study. And does not mean that when people are overseas, they come back to Cambodia and bring the value of democracy and respect to human rights to Cambodia. As you can see, today, January 25th or 26th, wherever you at in 2022, someone who has degree, many people in Cambodia have a degree overseas, master, doctor degree from overseas, but as a result, they went back to corruptions. Deforestation in Cambodia still exists, and it's at a faster speed right now. And also land grabbing. It's a chronic issue. It's a cancer in Cambodia. Disrespect for democracy. There's no such thing as free, fair, and just election in Cambodia. So so for people in Cambodia, my word is, does not, because they have money to send their kid overseas to study, does not mean that they are going to be a great leader, that they are going to lead into democracies and respect for human rights in Cambodia. So please keep going, please keep studying, go, as Brittany said, as long as you can and as long as you can afford it. Both message is for also the kid in the USA. Go as far as long as you can, and hopefully you have parents that can afford to pay for college. And also, if you cannot afford to pay for college, there's option, loan, 10-year loan.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Brittany
I
and
think
Selena, before we close the show?
Yeah, I think it is worth mentioning that everyone has different experiences and different access to different resources. And so I know you were talking about the corruption that it often exists in Cambodia, and I to make the most of your resources and don't compare yourself to other people. You don't know what their experiences is like and what their efforts they have put into. And so just focus on you and you'll be successful one day, and you'll understand the hard work that you put in to get to where you are. So don't worry about comparing to other people. Just make sure to make the most out of the resources that you do have.
Thank you, Selena. Brittany, any last minute?
Jabong, two things. First thing, as you said, I don't give any value to someone who goes abroad on scholarship and studies at a university and goes back and continues a rule of corruption. I don't value that education. It's a wasted opportunity. That scholarship should have gone to someone who was committed to positive change and progressing that country. So that's the first point. The second offer that I would like to make to people, I saw someone in the comments section. He said that he wants to pass the exam, the scholarship exam to study abroad. I'm happy to help any supporter to prepare for those exams or to write your scholarship essay. I've done that for many friends in Cambodia. So if you need help with that, I really believe in the power of education and the power of being exposed to different types of education, whether that be in an Asian country or in a Western country. I'm happy to help people with that if that is something that you need help with, or finding those resources in Cambodia, because that exists too.
And hopefully when they get those education, they're able to pay forward. They're able to pay forward and help people that in need, and also able to bring Cambodia through democracy and the respect for human rights. So like Brittany said, I cannot make any clear. When you in Cambodia and you see people have master degree and doctor degree, but those when what have they done? How did they take their overseas education to Cambodia, and have they improved? Have those education improved? And how is it that if you study in America, you study in Australia, you would know that environmental is a very big issue. America teach kids and very little to care about plant, care about oceans. And if you study in America and you go back to Cambodia and you do not stop deforestations and you do not go out there and protest and help to better Cambodia, and you would just go back to dictatorship, and it's a waste of education.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Selena and Brittany, for being here today to talk about educations. I know both ladies are
Thank you.
very well educated.
Thank you again for the opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, and I know that what you. Sorry, Miss Linda. I know what you said about bringing change and or getting an education, paying it forward, is really important. What you said there, because the reality of it all, the audience that's watching our show right now, in Cambodia especially, a lot of the children who can understand what we're saying right now are definitely more privileged to be able to have an education to understand English. So for the audience that is watching our show right now, just try to appreciate what you do have and remember to pay it forward, like you said.
And also for the youth in this country as well, for all the youth that listening, that able to listen to our show to understand that where their parent come from. And it's very important that they speak up, they speak out, and you can see the corruption, and you can see how much the regime paying. We start the show with corruption index 157 out of 180. That is serious corruption. And we're talking about two lobby company that the Cambodian regime pay, Hun Sen regime pay $60,000 per month to one company. I'm sorry, let me gonna share it again. So that way before we end, I want you to clearly see that the regime is paying their image. Instead of paying, they should have that money and spend in Cambodia and try to improve their image with their own people instead of drag and drop and beat their own people every single day. This is from Akin group. Again, you can see, if I can show that highlight, 60,000 per month, $60,000 per month to an American company, so that their image will be look like they are respect human rights, they respect democracy. And also, let me show another one. This one, $70,000 per month. You add up in a whole year, it's over $1.5 million the regime willing to pay. And where's those money come from? Corruption. Where those money come from? Forestation, land grabbing, selling land, selling natural resources to foreigner, having foreigner access to our sea. Oh, I forgot about that another hot news regarding Ream Naval Base. We'll talk about that on next Tuesday.
Yeah, next week.
We forgot about that regarding Ream Naval Base today.
It's all connected, though, because this lobbying firm will cover up the dredging that's taking place there.
And it's clear evident that, the Ream Naval Base and Darasiko has an airport, and Ream Naval Base is able for the warship to dock. So that's selling natural resource, selling land to foreigner. Mm-hmm. And all these, where does money from? $1.5 million, over $1.5 million just to the regime paying for Washington, D.C. to bring a better image of Cambodia. Instead of working on their image, they pay for it. And those are your money.
It's like,
those are Cambodian natural resources.
It's like people who use filters on their phone. Like, how about you just be natural and show people who you are rather than paying for this image? Yeah, it's really disappointing. It's disappointing that those American lawyers are taking this money and contributing to decades of corruption and human rights violations. The blood is now also on their hands.
And if any of those lawyers, I'm sure before they take this job, they visited Cambodia, leave the hotel, drive to the farm.
Mm-hmm.
You will see there's people barely have a house. There's people begging on the street, and those are everyday normal. So if any lobby firm listening to our show, please reconsider.
Yeah.
Again, I think thank you. Yes.
Yeah. I was just going to add that the late senator from Washington State, Doug Erickson, was one of the main lobbyists for Hun Sen in Washington, D.C. Very powerful senator, taking money from this corrupt regime and pushing these positive images in Cambodia. Although he passed away from COVID last month, the other firms, other corrupt people in the United States are continuing this dirty work. However, I think that it speaks to the power of the work that many people are doing to pass S3052 and HR 4686, which would put pressure on these corrupted officials and hold them accountable for their actions. So I want to encourage all people to continue to raise your voice, to give your power to advocate using the freedom that we have in this country, the democracy systems that we have in this country, to push for this change. The reason why Hun Sen regime is now partnering with all these lobbying firms is because they're afraid of this legislation, which indicates to us that this legislation is doing exactly what we would like for it to do.
Thank you, Brittany, for closing our show with HR 4686 and S3052. Again, please contact your family. If you have family in America, contact your friend, anyone. Contact them, have them contact their state senator. That's not state, U.S. senator. It's only 2 per state. If you live in Hawaii, please contact your U.S. senator. Any state, please contact them and voice and tell them you are a Cambodian American, Cambodian American, and you vote for them, you support them, and now it's time for your senator to support you on what you care about, which is your country. Okay, thank you both ladies for being here today. I really appreciate you are here. You speak your voice and show us that education is important. Also, the reason why education is not moving in Cambodia because of corruptions. And in the corruptions as well, we're talking about the two new lobby firms that just signed with the regime to bring that image. And I also brought up the corruption index from Transparency International regarding Cambodia. So we hope that everybody get a good look of Cambodia, and also able to understand what the school in America compared to Cambodia. Selena gave a lot of example for America, and Brittany gave a lot of example in Cambodia. And thank you so much, both guests, and thank you, and good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night.